So good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining such an amazing event. I'm really, really excited to be here. And what I want to do today is just talk about having that security conversation with your customers. You know, you've booked time with them, you want to talk to them about security, but what do you say? And for many that we've talked to, we've heard it over and over again. How do I convince my customers that they need to be putting dollars into security? And what we've found at Huntress is that our founders realize that education and teaching about security really resonates with a lot of people. So today what we're going to do is we're going to spend some time on understanding why putting importance into security is a little difficult to convey sometimes to our customers. And then what we'll find is we'll think about how do we get that emotional response so that they can kind of feel that impact. And the way we're going to do that is we're actually going to dive into an actual live hacking demo that you yourself can run and show your customers, and then actually show them why security is so important. So my goal today really is to make it fun and to make it worth your time. So let's go ahead and get started. So just to introduce myself, I'm Annie Ballew. I've been at Huntress for about 4 months now as a product marketer. And before that, I came from Cisco Systems, where I worked for 15 years, actually doing design implementation for Cisco security products. And it's been a really huge shift going from design engineering to marketing, but it's been really fun, and I'm really proud to be part of this team. So in any case, no need to talk about me. Let's just dig into our agenda here. And what we're going to do is we're going to start off with just kind of recapping what the security conversations kind of look like today. And then we'll dig into why this is such a challenge, selling the value of security. And lastly, we'll spend time talking about another approach which you can use, and that is to show your customers. Let them see exactly how and where security is being used. And the best part is that we'll actually give you all of these materials that you can use to present the demo on your own, customize it, and make it part of your conversation with your own customers. So let's go ahead and get started. So the challenge you all came here to talk about is you have a meeting with your customers about security. You want to sell them on it and get them to understand why they need it. But sometimes it's just not an easy conversation, especially when the real goal of the conversation is to get them to reach into their pockets to spend a little bit more on security. And so, oftentimes when we have this conversation, it kind of looks something like this, right? You start putting down a bunch of news headlines. You show that security is a thing that they should care about. Journalists and reporters are writing about it. Your vendors are writing about it. So obviously, security must be a real thing, right? And oftentimes, this is followed up with some statistics showing that it's becoming a growing concern. We're seeing charts of things going up and to the right, meaning do something now before it's too late. And if you think about some of these conversation starters, what you're really trying to do is get awareness from your customer so they understand it, which is good. It's what you want. And you kind of want to bring out that emotional response. But that can be kind of hard to do. But at least with this approach, you're making the audience aware that there is a problem. But is it enough to actually get them to do anything about it? So another approach we see all the time is to just teach them about the products themselves. Outlining what the products do. Why are they valuable? How do they solve your security problem? And, while some customers want to understand the nitty-gritty technical details of how the technology works and what it's used for, some of our customers, especially those smaller business customers, they don't really want to look under the hood. And a good example is maybe you have a customer that owns a small local chain of bakeries. Do they want to hear about a firewall and how it works? I don't want to make generalizations, but in the vast majority of cases, the answer is probably no. So Explaining the products doesn't often speak to them about how they can address their bottom line, which is their business. And sometimes there are some ways to spin the messaging, but it's not always an easy sell depending on your audience. And so this is kind of another approach that we've seen a lot more lately, which is just bake it in. Don't spend too much time even talking about it. And I know a lot of you already do this, and it is absolutely a valid approach. In fact, at Huntress, we see more and more of our partners moving in this direction. The idea is to actually sell the value of your services to your customer. They don't have to think or talk to you much about security. They realize they can trust you. You can just handle it for them. And the nice thing about this approach is that it keeps the security conversation tight. The challenge here, though, is that not talking about security opens up the idea of, threats will inevitably evolve, new solutions emerge that will solve these new problems. And without really understanding security, your customers won't understand why they potentially need to pay more, especially when a new solution pops up because there's a new security challenge that needs to be addressed. So you really want to be open and transparent when you're talking about security, and talking about it really establishes that trust relationship between you and your customer, and it establishes a lot of credibility that you have. So let's kind of dive into this a little bit more. I mean, why is the security conversation so difficult? And what I want to do here is have a little fun with our poll questions. So let's spend some time, doing some internal reflection. Think about how you as an individual assess your risk and make trade-offs. Are you a risk taker, or are you more risk averse? So I want to pose this question to you. Say you're given two options, a genie or a tooth fairy or whoever comes to you and offers you one of two choices. The first choice is going to be, it's an automatic guarantee. You'll get $500 in your bank account. And then the second choice is, it's not a guarantee anymore, but it's a 50% chance of getting $1,000 added to your bank account. So let's go ahead and open up those poll panels. Let me know what you would choose. I'll give a minute to just kind of see what your options are. All right, so we see a lot of people choosing that first option, right? It's the idea of the bird in the hand, you'd rather have that guarantee mentally, just saying, I know I'm going to get the $500. Why accept that potential risk? So that's interesting. I'm an option gal myself too. So let's pose kind of a different question now, right? So let's say you get a different set of choices. In the first option, now it's $500 guaranteed will be removed from your bank account. And the other option is 50% chance of $1,000 removed from your bank account. And let's take a look and see what people say here. All right, interesting. A lot of people have decided to stay with their original choice. And I mean, what we look at or what we see is these are theoretically the same question. I mean, the economics look very much the same between the two questions, right? So where I'm trying to go with this is there is this idea of prospect theory. And prospect theory is an actual experiment done by two economic scholars. Their names were Daniel Kahneman and Amos Tversky. And the idea is to understand how people make risk trade-offs. And they pose these exact questions in some empirical tests to just kind of determine how people make risk trade-offs. And their hypothesis was that the two questions are indeed the same. But what they found is when they included human psychology into the mix, people responded very, very differently. And the results of their tests were actually that if there was an addition to their bank account, then people would prefer that guarantee. They would much rather have the money in hand rather than risk a chance. But on the flip side, if you have something to lose, a lot more people would actually rather take the gamble. They'd rather decide, well, if I'm going to lose something, I'd rather run the risk of not losing anything at all, rather than guaranteeing that I'll lose a little bit. So you might kind of see where I'm going here. There is a direct correlation to how people spend on security. So this is our second question, right? And this concept was written about by the legendary Bruce Schneier. He's a very well-known security guru. And he actually related prospect theory to selling security. And the idea is a lot of people would rather not take the risk of a potential breach. Most people would rather take the risk of a potential breach rather than spending the money on something that is not guaranteed to happen, especially if it's something they don't quite understand or if they've trivialized it in their minds, right? So, this is a bit of a generalization, right? The numbers we've displayed here, $500, $1,000, these are not exactly representative of that security decision. And those numbers would obviously weigh into how you assess risk and what option you decide to go with. But the idea is we want to shift people from choosing option B to choosing option A. And we want to bring them along on that journey. And oftentimes that's going to require some type of emotional response out of our customers. And unfortunately, in many cases, this is waiting for them to actually experience a breach in order to get them to actually realize they need to do something. So, we want to take them on this journey. So the reality is people, they love to learn. They just absolutely love learning. And when it is presented in a way that resonates with them, then that helps a lot in their learning process. So, imagine trying to learn about sharks by opening up an encyclopedia about sharks, or heaven forbid, a PowerPoint presentation about sharks. At the same vein, if you were to think about Shark Week on the Discovery Channel, it's one of their biggest weeks because it's just so incredibly interesting to tune into. And what you want to do is you want to get your customers to go from simply having an awareness that they have a security problem to actually having the knowledge and understanding that they want to do something about it. So this is where we get into our hacking demo. And this is our Shark Week, right? So when you go in, you talk to your customers, show them with this hacking demo. And it's really easy too. The first thing we'll actually do is we'll actually set up the story. So we'll put our hacker hats on. And if you know Huntress, you may have followed our CEO, Kyle Hansloven, give this presentation. He has his own way of doing it, but make it fun, make it your own, figure out what works for you. But let's go ahead and dive right in. Okay, so the first things first, as a hacker, what do I want to do? What's the first thing I want to do? I want to find a way to get to my victim. And there's a really good chance that if there's a laptop being used for business purposes, Office 365 will be one of the first tools that are used on that machine. And so if I want to, and then if I think about it, who do I want to go after? Who would be my primary target? Is it the engineering or IT departments? Probably not. I probably have a higher chance of being able to get in with a different type of victim persona. I can tell you this, after moving from engineering to marketing, it's funny, the number of sketchy emails that I see on a daily basis was really eye-opening for me. So, for the purposes of this particular demo that we're going to do today, we'll pick on the poor HR department for a little bit. And so when we think about the HR department, one of their primary jobs is to open and look at resumes. They need to decide which new recruits to pursue, which ones to weed out. They can't not look at resumes, right? So as a hacker, what do? I'll do some research about who is out there that I can potentially prey on. When Kyle developed this demo originally, he actually went online and found a company that had actually listed their job advertisements. And what you'll find is a lot of hackers are often opportunistic. And what do I mean by that? It means they'll just browse around and they'll see what sticks. So if you look here, you can see a bunch of job advertisements. And if you'll notice, there's a button right here to actually go and apply on the company site. So we'll go ahead and let's click on this. And then this takes us to the career page. And the career page even calls out, please submit all inquiries in your application to human resources, directly to human resources. So as an actual prospect, that's pretty easy, right? To go ahead and apply for a job. And so, for a hacker, it's equally as easy. So if we go ahead and click here, you'll see that this URL actually points to a real person. And so we'll give this person a name. Her name is Jennifer from HR. Remember, you can make it your own. You can even find someone in the audience to trigger the sort of trigger the importance of what you're about to show. So we're going to pick on poor Jennifer here. We're going to start our email, right? So let's kind of imagine what our email might look like. And again, tailor this email and your presentation to however you want to do it. So here I am. I happen to be based in Colorado. We'll put some bogus details in here. So I'm going to say, hello, ABA team, please attach my resume for your senior accounting position. I'm growing my Excel 1099 skills, and I'm really excited for an opportunity to really join your team. This is my lifelong dream. Please let me work for you. So if I'm Jennifer, and knowing how hard it is to just find talent in general, this is someone who seems relatively interesting, right? I'd be willing to talk to this particular individual. It's really hard to look away from something like this. So poor Jennifer, she's already set up for a little bit of trouble. So let's take a look. All right, are we ready to go ahead and hack away? So hopefully you can see my two VMs. Here's Jennifer's computer on the left. And here's my hacker machine, my Kali Linux hacker machine on the right. And then, of course, this is the exact moment when my computer's fan is just spinning away. All right. Okay, so here's Jennifer. She gets this email. It's the exact email that we had staged earlier, right? And we see an attachment here. And this attachment is, you can notice it's a docm, but the picture here is a Microsoft Word still, right? And so I look at it as Jennifer, and she goes ahead and opens it anyways. And docm is specifically a Word. It's an extension for Word, but it actually has the ability to run macros. And as IT professionals, we realize that that's not the best thing for Jennifer. So we go ahead, we open this up. It's thinking a little bit. And then we see this message. This document is protected. Jennifer goes, oh, okay, that's a good thing, right? And it actually has instructions on exactly what she needs to do in order to open this particular file. So we'll go ahead, and she goes, okay, well, I have to enable editing, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. Well, I really want to see this resume. This person seems pretty interesting. So I'm going to go ahead and click again. And then let's see what happens. Oh no, I get an error. So what does Jennifer do? Maybe she decides she's going to forward it to one of her colleagues and have them open it. Maybe she sends it to her IT department and says, can you help me open this? I really want to look at this resume. And then nothing really happens. But if we go back over here and we look at our hacker machine, we see now a session has opened, right? So let's go ahead and interact with this session. So now we're the actual hacker, and we're going to go in to Jennifer's machine. So we go ahead and start our session. And here's the first thing that we can do. We're going to try to study Jennifer and see what she's up to. I'm going to go ahead and maybe take a screenshot. And then I get my screenshot. It's saved to my machine. Boom, here we go. This is Jennifer's machine. And I can take multiple screenshots throughout the day, see what she's actually doing, see what she's up to. Maybe one thing she does is she starts logging into some of her important tools. So let's go ahead and start a keystroke logger. We've heard and seen keystroke loggers many, many times, but what does that actually look like? Let's watch her go ahead and open up some of her tools. One of the things that she might do at her small company is not just HR. Maybe she has to do some finance things. And we'll just give that a minute to kind of open up for a second. And then she'll put in her password, Jennifer.hr. What's her password? Let's go ahead and put in a password and see what happens there, right? And then you can actually see, as the hacker, what she's actually typing in. You can see her username there, her password there. And so when you show this to your audience, it can be really compelling. We've seen videos of other partners actually giving this presentation, and when they show the screenshot, when they show the keystroke logging actually occur, there's audible gasps in the room. It's actually pretty fun, pretty interesting to see. So as the hacker, let's do some more. Let's see what else we have, right? We can actually enumerate her directory. So I'm looking at her documents directory here, and I see, oh, interesting. There's an important documents folder. So let's see what's in there. All right. Oh wow, all these interesting documents here. Offsite passwords. Let's take a look. Let's see what that looks like. That sounds like a pretty juicy one. So I'm going to go ahead and actually download it, and then see what happens. See if I can actually see the file itself. And so we can watch here. We see the file actually being downloaded onto the hacker's machine. They're actually getting a copy of this file from Jennifer's machine. And so this can be, this is actually showing them that security is a real thing. I mean, our founders came from a background in offensive security, and they've seen these actual tools happen or being used in the hacker community. So let's go ahead and see if we can take a look at this file. Let's go ahead and we'll background that and see if we can see this password file. All right. There we go. Jackpot. This is basically an Excel spreadsheet. It's got all these logins, all these passwords. It's a little bit terrifying, right? And that's the thing is, this actually hasn't happened to your customer yet. You're just showing them the possibility of what potentially might happen. We want to move them from that, taking on more risk to actually spending a little bit more on security in order to avoid this potential risk, right? And I'm going to show you another thing. The thing is, our hacker, right? We sent the email to Jennifer. She opened it up. She clicked on that particular macro. And the reality is, she may only do that one time. And then when she reboots her machine, we as the hacker will lose that access. So what do you do as a hacker? You'll actually establish what we call a foothold. So we'll actually create a foothold on the machine. And this is essentially setting a registry key value on her machine. And here you're seeing a registry key value under HKey current user. And what this does is every time Jennifer logs off the machine and logs back in, it's going to run this particular command. Let me go back into my sessions before. There we go. That's what I want to do. There we go. So we've successfully set this foothold, right? And so if I go back to Jennifer's machine, here's her registry, here's HKey current user, and here's my run key for that. And this gets a little bit technical, but you'll see in a second what we mean. So if I refresh this, there's my foothold. So when we log out, when Jennifer logs out of the machine and then logs back in, this will be run. Here's another thing that will be run, her sticky notes. And that's just a normal part of Windows. I mean, it's specifically benign, but this foothold here is what gets a little bit scary. So let's go ahead and pretend we're Jennifer. We're done with the day. We're probably not going to look at that email anymore. We're going to log off. And then if we log back in, we'll actually see that foothold take place and then run. So let's go ahead and log in as Jennifer again. Let's see what happens. So we'll give it a minute here as it's coming up. All right. And while we're doing that, I'm going to go look in the comments for a little bit. Okay, I see some audio things. So hopefully hopefully those are corrected. So there we go. This is the foothold taking place, right? And the thing is, this foothold could have been anything. It could have been malicious code running in the background. It could have been a ransomware payload. It could have been a backdoor account creation, and you can customize when you're giving this demo, you can actually customize this, create your own message and see what could potentially happen, right? And that just kind of sets the stage for bringing it back to the actual security tools, your security layer, how you're building that for your customer. And so what we'll do at this point is we'll go back to our slide presentation and just kind of talk about it. Let's kind of recap what we just saw. All right. So hopefully you can see here, we're back to my presentation here. Bear with me. All right. Okay, so we're going to do a little quick recap on exactly what we saw. So this is where you relate everything back, your attacker journey, right? So if we break it all down, there are a lot of phases that our attacker goes through. And you may have seen this before. There's a lot of predefined kill chains out there. It started out with one by Lockheed Martin. A lot of these have changed and modified. You can update this based on the conversation or how you have built this demo for your particular customer. And so we'll quickly map this out. Let's look at the first phase, right? Reconnaissance. This is us as the hacker researching our victim. We're looking up the job advertisements. We're clicking on career pages. We're figuring out what is the most fruitful. And if we want to try to map these to potential security solutions, this is where you can start talking about things like security awareness training, external hardening, doing security assessments. And again, depending on what security stack you are recommending for your customers, build your presentation based on what your recommendations are. Let's keep going. Email phishing, right? This one's kind of an obvious one. This is email phishing. So this is where your email security comes in. You see there's a little link right here where potentially Jennifer could have clicked on it. It could have called out somewhere to download malware. That's where your DNS security and URL filtering potentially come into play. Again, malware execution. This is the security awareness training over again. This is where you have endpoint security, where if you have attachments that are being downloaded on the machine, your endpoint security is going to factor in at this phase in the attacker journey. Maybe it's not even a phishing email. Maybe you could make it an actual browser drive-by download or a compromised site, a compromised legitimate site that happens to be hosting a malicious frame. It doesn't necessarily have to be a phishing email, but it just gets them to start mapping those security tools to the attacker journey and showing them all of those security layers. Again, communication, right? We talk about firewalls, we talk about network segmentation. There's a lot of management that goes into firewalls and network segmentation. I know all of you deal with that with your actual customers, and it's there's a lot of work involved in making sure that those policies are set right, your filter policies are done correctly. Again, it's also, sometimes the hacker isn't going to be on the network. More often than not, they'll actually be off the network and communicating somewhere out in the internet. Again, this is where your DNS URL filtering potentially may also come into play. And then lastly, I have to talk about this persistence, proactive threat hunting. This is what we do at Huntress, but it's also about other things like account admin auditing. If we were to set this foothold here where it's actually creating a backdoor account, that's all happening in the background. You may not even see or notice that it's happening. And so auditing those accounts, making sure those backdoor accounts are being eliminated as you're doing your auditing, that all becomes really, really important. So the idea is, all of this together, this demo, it really shows, your audience how security works. It shows that layered approach. Each tool and solution covers a specific aspect of the attack chain. And the other thing that this does is that it helps with that expectation setting. It's obvious here that no security tool can really do it on its own. There's no silver bullet, but you've understood the space. You've put together the right recommendations to your customer based on their needs and based on their budget. And you're going to help them on their way to making sure that they are indeed secure. So that's kind of how you can have that security conversation through using education, using a live demo. So how do you deliver this demo? If you go into your call to action on your Crowdcast screen, there should be a link that you could click on that actually takes you to how you can actually deliver the demo itself. And when you click on there, what we'll provide you is you'll actually get videos with my CEO, Kyle. He walks you through exactly how to do the presentation. The entire toolkit will be there, and it'll be available for you to download. And we're improving this presentation and this hacking demo every single day. The only thing here is, we do ask you to bring your own VMs. There's licensing requirements for Windows. Kali Linux is absolutely free. But if you need any help at all, we have a Slack channel. I'm in there. Kyle's in there. John, our VP of Threat Ops, is in there. We're all watching and seeing how we can help you be successful in giving this particular demo. And the reality is, it looked like a bit sophisticated, but it's actually very easy. I'm in marketing, if that tells you anything you need to know about how easy it is. And the truth is, I mentioned this before, your peers are already doing this. I mentioned earlier that we did have a partner, and the response, our partner give the demo, and the response, it was really fun to watch, just the gasps in the room when they showed the screenshots and the key loggers coming into play. And, just to kind of reiterate this point, this is one of my teammates, Gabby. She's one of our Huntress BDRs, and she's been at Huntress for about a year. But before that, she worked at a medical spa. And 2 weeks ago, she had never opened a VM in her life. And she absolutely rocked the hacking demo. So just to give you a little bit of encouragement, you can absolutely do it yourself. I am very confident in saying that. And alongside that, we also have our guide to selling cybersecurity. This kind of talks about just overall selling strategies, gaps in coverage based on different pieces of solutions in the security stack. It kind of goes through in detail some of that hacker recap that I went over earlier, where the different products address certain phases in the attacker kill chain. And it's one of our most popular assets. So definitely go ahead and take a look at that one there. And, just to close, I want to leave you with some closing thoughts. The goal of selling through education, doing this live hacker demo, It's really to establish that transparency and trust with your end customer. It shows that you know what you're talking about, that you've studied and done the work, which you have, right? It also sets expectations with your customer on the importance of a layered security stack, the fact that there really is no silver bullet. And lastly, it establishes that credibility that you have. It proves that you can absolutely bring value to your customer and bring them along in their security journey. You know, when the security the security landscape inevitably changes, there may be new cybersecurity problems that are born from that, and you'll be there with the right answers. So based on that, let me see if there's any questions here. I'm going to take a look. And if not, you're more than welcome to reach out to me. I'm just Annie Ballew at annie.ballew@huntress.com. A lot of you may already know Kyle or find us on our website. More than happy to chat. We love talking to our partners. All right, and then let me see. Oh, I do see some questions here. Do you have a guide on how to perform this demo? Absolutely, we do. If you don't have the link in the call to action, then let us know. And then in terms of the Slack channel, Joshua Wilson, I will make sure I get back to you on that. Actually, I don't manage it. So maybe Annette, if we can, when we send out the recording, we can figure out a way to communicate that information out to everyone. But yeah, I really appreciate the time today. This was such a great event. Thank you, Annette, Lindsay, for organizing and setting all of this up. It's been a really good venue for us.
Yeah, all right, thanks so much, Annie. I see someone has asked for the call to action, but then Nicholas has included the link in the comments off to the side there, so make sure to grab the link. And yeah, we'll for sure add the information for the Slack channel for you guys once the recordings are ready to go. So we're wrapping up just a little bit early. You have a few minutes to go grab a coffee or take a quick bathroom break before we come back with our AVIC partner Q&A. So thanks so much, Annie. That was super cool. And yeah, I'm going to end the broadcast now. So have a great day.
Thank you, everyone. Take care. Have a great day.